In 1607, 13 years before the Pilgrims landed in Massachusetts, 3 English ships, the Susan Constant, the Godspeed, and the Discovery, arrived in the New World to mark the first permanent settlement in Jamestown, Virginia.
Start the journey with 105 colonists, ends the journey with 104. 2 larger ships, the Godspeed and the Susan Constant, remain about a month, waiting for them to build the fort and get everything set up. And once that's the initial setup stage is finished, the 2 larger ships leave and go back to England. The smaller ship, the Discovery, actually remains here in Virginia and is used by the colony to explore the maps, the rivers, the creeks, and the streams to figure out what they're dealing with in the larger part of Virginia. About 7 or 8 months later, the next resupply mission shows up in Virginia, bringing new colonists, new food, and supplies for the colony to keep going. 2 trips in 1608, followed by 2 and 3 trips every year, increasing in number as the colony gets bigger and the more wealth there's found in the colony.
That's when the colonists literally starved to death. The water here was bad. There were mosquitoes. There were just a lot, and there was conflict with the Indians, and there were only a few left.
The colony had gone from probably being at its highest point at that point over 300 to being whittled down to about 30 or so. Disease is a major problem. One of the ships that came in the early 1609 period probably brought some sort of disease with them, so they probably brought plague. So you also have the disease just running rampant through the fort, and they're trapped in that little area, and they can't get out because of the Indian attacks. They also have 2 other things that have gone bad for them. First, the storehouse accidentally caught fire and burned down. So most of their stores of food provisions have gone up in smoke. The second problem they have is that when the war started with the Powhatan Indians, the first thing the Powhatan did was they went to a place called Hog Island. Called Hog Island because the English stored all their pig, all their hog, on the island. They slaughtered everything, the guards and the pigs, left it out to rot in the Virginia sun. By the time anyone went to check, it was all over and it was pretty much ruined. So they've lost all their dried preserved foods and they lost all their fresh food.
The story goes they were getting ready to abandon the place, and as they were sailing out, in comes a resupply ship. So they come back and reestablish it again, and that hadn't occurred then. The other ship might have arrived, but the other people would have been gone. It might have ended right there. This is teak. I think the teak wood comes from Asia. It's not available in Europe, and it's not native to America. And teak lasts for hundreds of years. In fact, the battleship New Jersey that ships during World War II, their decks were made of teak. Pine trees that I have in the backyard are what's good for mass. That pine also produces tar.
On the Godspeed, they load 39 people on top of 40 tons of cargo. 39 people down there for a 4.5-month voyage.
Think about the length of time. I mean, probably it was only the longest part was only about 60 days, but you can't stand up down there. So, you know, and then if a storm comes, you're kind of trapped below. If you're claustrophobic, you don't want to make this trip. The sextant and navigation instruments became available. So we had the ship technology and then the navigation technology to allow him to make the trip. It still wouldn't have happened if there was one other thing that had to take place, and that was economics. So now with technology and desire and economics all coming together, that's really the driving force behind those expeditions to trade with India. That happens today in space exploration or anything else that you're doing. All the elements for discovery need to come together at the same time. Sometimes they had a little platform where the kids would stand out there during the day and have a pile of rocks, and they would throw rocks if the birds were trying to eat their corn or something like that. That's how the kids developed their throwing skills, and then they would give them little bows and arrows to be able to shoot something. So from a very young age, they were raised on how to throw things accurately and how to shoot the bow.
Take the hoof apart and get the toe bones out of it. These little bones right here. Or what I make fish hooks out of. Fish hooks out of it. If the big bone breaks while I'm making it, then I'll make a bunch of little needles out of it. Drill a hole with a rock just by going around and around. And sand it down on the sandstone, make it flat. And I've got other parts here. That's the backbone. I can use that as an awl to punch holes in leather. This is the tip off of one of these bones. Make smaller tools like that. The string within the deer is the tendon.
Yeah, that's cool. That's the tendon. And you can make fishing line out of it, or tie things, or wrap it together for making the houses and things like that.
So on leather.
Are there many descendants?
About 3,000 or 4,000 left here.
They come here at least once a year, where the Indians come and they have a powwow, which is a big meeting, and they play the drums, and they have their regal attire with feathers. You know, it's kind of neat.
There are 7 tribes left of the Powhatans and one other tribe, the Monicans, and all of them have their own powwow on tribal grounds as well. So during the summer, you can have one about each month.
And do they serve like special food there, certain kind of
They
food?
have Indian tacos and things like that.
So they had a fairly good diet. Obviously, they had to dry out their corn and save the corn, and they would grind the corn into flour and make the bread. And you can imagine they didn't have ovens, so you know they cooked. They made the thing and kind of put it in the fire, and it was probably tasted more like hardtack than anything. It was just probably hard.
It's actually baked in the embers of the fire, and I haven't rinsed it off yet. When I rinse it off, the ash will actually rinse off pretty well. So it's much tastier than it looks. The bread's going to be yellow, but we love cornbread today.
You take this seashell that you get right from the James River and just scrape and scrape and scrape and scrape. You know, usually this is something the women did, and you get it down to this.
It's for holding up stuff like a fish net or something while you work. These people didn't live in teepees, they lived in Uhaka. Teepees are more plains oriented for a lot of the tribes that would later be following animal herds.